Have you ever been told that getting older automatically means getting weaker? Many people believe that stiff knees, slower movement, and difficulty getting out of a chair are just a normal part of life after 50. I believed that too until I decided to try something very simple. I started doing squats every day for 100 days. No expensive equipment, no gym membership, and no complicated workout plan. Just a simple movement that most people overlook. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much. I only wanted to feel stronger in my daily life, climb stairs more easily, and get up from a chair without discomfort. Maybe you can relate. As we get older, small tasks often become harder. Walking long distances feels tiring, carrying groceries takes more effort, and balance may not feel as steady as it once did. These changes happen so slowly that many people accept them as unavoidable. That was exactly why I started this challenge. I wanted to know if one simple exercise could really make a difference. At first, I was skeptical. How could squats help so much? But the more I learned, the more I realized that squatting is connected to many everyday activities. Sitting down, standing up, picking something off the floor, getting out of a car, and even using the bathroom all require similar movements. The problem is that many people wait until they become noticeably weaker before taking action. They wait until stairs become difficult or balance starts becoming a concern. By then, strength has already been declining for years. So on day one, I gave it a try. It wasn't easy. My knees felt stiff, my legs tired quickly, and my balance wasn't as good as I thought. After only a few squats, I realized this challenge would test more than just my muscles. It would test my consistency. I had to show up every day even when I didn't feel motivated. And if you've ever tried building a healthy habit, you know that's often the hardest part. The first few days are exciting, but staying consistent for weeks is where real change begins. Still, I kept going. Day after day, I noticed small improvements. Nothing dramatic at first, but little signs that my body was responding. And around day 30, something happened that completely changed the way I thought about aging and strength after 50. But before I tell you what happened, it's important to understand why so many adults lose strength as they age and why this simple exercise can have such a powerful impact. As the days passed, I started wondering why something as simple as squats was helping me so much when hardly anyone talks about it. The answer became clear during the challenge. After the age of 50, muscle loss happens slowly, and many people don't notice it until everyday tasks become difficult. Standing up from a chair, climbing stairs, or walking for longer distances suddenly requires much more effort. Many people think this is just a normal part of aging, but often the real issue is that the muscles are no longer being used enough. Modern life keeps us sitting for hours while eating, watching TV, driving, reading, or relaxing. Over time, the muscles in our legs and hips become weaker because they are not being challenged regularly. But here's where the biggest mistake happens. When people feel weak, they often move less. If their knees hurt, they avoid activity. If they feel tired, they rest more. If they fear falling, they become even less active. This creates a cycle where weakness leads to less movement, and less movement causes even more weakness. I realized I had fallen into the same pattern. Without noticing it, I was always choosing the easier option. I parked closer to stores, avoided stairs, and looked for chances to sit down. These habits seemed harmless, but together, they reduced how much my muscles work each day. By the second week of doing squats, I noticed changes. My legs felt stronger, but it wasn't just my legs. My hips felt more active, my balance improved, and even my posture seemed better. I had always thought squats were only for the thighs, but they were actually helping my whole body move more efficiently. Around the third week, I noticed something encouraging. Getting out of a chair became easier. It wasn't a huge change, but enough for me to notice. I no longer relied on my hands as much to stand up. For the first time, I could feel real progress, and that progress gave me motivation to continue. Many people think motivation comes first, but I learned that action creates motivation. The more consistent I became, the more I wanted to keep going. Still, around day 25 I almost quit. The excitement was gone, my legs sometimes felt tired, and I wondered if the effort was worth it. That's exactly when many people give up, not because they can't do it, but because results take time. Strength doesn't appear overnight. Just as weakness develops slowly over years, building strength also requires patience. One workout won't change your life, but repeating healthy habits day after day can create powerful results. Thankfully, I kept going. Around day 30, I noticed a benefit I wasn't expecting. My confidence was improving. I felt steadier while walking, worried less about losing my balance, and felt more capable during everyday activities. For adults over 50, this kind of confidence can be life-changing because when people feel safer and stronger, they naturally become more active and enjoy life more. And the most surprising part was that even bigger changes were still ahead. During the next stage of the challenge, I discovered benefits that had nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with feeling healthier, stronger, and more independent each day. One of those benefits surprised me more than anything else. By the time I reached day 30, something had changed inside me. The squats were no longer just an experiment. They had become part of my daily routine, like brushing my teeth or making my morning coffee. I didn't have to convince myself to do them anymore. I simply did them. And that's when the most interesting improvements began to appear. One morning, I was carrying several grocery bags from my car to the house when I suddenly realized something. The bags felt lighter. Not because they weighed less, but because I felt stronger. Tasks that had once left me breathing heavily no longer seemed like such a challenge. A few days later, I noticed another change. Walking felt different. My steps felt more confident. I wasn't dragging my feet as much. I felt more stable when moving around the house. And I wasn't constantly looking for something to hold on to when navigating uneven ground. These may sound like small things, but if you're over 50, you know how important they are. The ability to move confidently affects almost every part of life. It affects whether you enjoy traveling, whether you take walks with friends, whether you play with your grandchildren, and ultimately, your independence. And here's something many people don't realize. When movement becomes easier, people naturally become more active. You start walking more, you take the stairs without thinking twice, and you spend less time sitting. Those extra movements create even more strength, and before you know it, you're caught in a positive cycle that keeps building momentum. But here's where the biggest surprise happened. Around day 45, I began sleeping better. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but the pattern continued. I was falling asleep more easily and waking up feeling more refreshed. Looking back, it made sense. My body was working more during the day, my muscles were being challenged regularly. I was moving with greater purpose, and my overall energy seemed more balanced. Many people focus only on how exercise changes appearance. What they often forget is that movement affects nearly every system in the body. It can influence energy levels, mood, sleep quality, and overall well-being. And I was beginning to experience those benefits firsthand. Then another unexpected change appeared. My posture improved. One day, I caught my reflection while walking past a window and noticed I was standing taller. My shoulders weren't slumped forward as much, and I looked more confident. Again, this wasn't a dramatic transformation. It was subtle. But those subtle improvements kept adding up week after week and day after day. That's often how real health improvements happen, not through sudden miracles or extreme programs, but through small actions repeated consistently. Unfortunately, many people are searching for shortcuts. They want immediate results. They want to feel stronger tomorrow. But the body doesn't usually work that way. The body rewards patience. The body rewards consistency. The body rewards showing up, even on the days when you don't feel like it. By day 60, friends and family started noticing changes. Some commented that I seemed more energetic. Others mentioned that I looked healthier. A few asked whether I had started a new workout program. When I told them I had simply been doing daily squats, most were surprised. They expected a complicated answer. They expected some secret method, but there wasn't one. The secret was consistency. And that's a lesson that applies far beyond exercise. Whether it's improving strength, improving health, or building better habits, the biggest results often come from simple actions repeated over time. Still, I want to be honest, not every day felt great. There were mornings when my legs felt stiff. There were days when I was busy and didn't feel motivated. There were moments when I questioned whether continuing was worth the effort. That's completely normal. Progress is rarely a straight line. Some days feel amazing, while other days feel difficult. The important thing is continuing anyway. Because the people who see lasting results aren't necessarily the most talented or athletic. They're often the most consistent. And as I approached day 75, I was about to learn one of the most valuable lessons of the entire challenge, a lesson that every adult over 50 should understand before starting any exercise routine. As I moved closer to day 75, I realized something important that I wish someone had learned years earlier. More isn't always better. When people start a new health habit, they often become excited and try to do too much too soon. They push harder, add more repetitions, and ignore signs that their body needs recovery. I was tempted to do the same thing because I was feeling stronger than I had in a long time. But here's where many people make a serious mistake. They confuse discomfort with progress. A little muscle fatigue after exercise can be normal, but sharp pain is not. Persistent joint pain is not. Ignoring warning signs is not. One of the reasons I was able to continue for 100 days was because I listened to my body. On days when my knees felt stiff, I moved more slowly. On days when my energy was lower, I focused on good form instead of doing extra repetitions. That lesson became incredibly valuable because healthy aging isn't about proving how tough you are. It's about staying active long enough to enjoy life, and that's exactly what this challenge was teaching me. By day 80, I started noticing benefits that had nothing to do with exercise itself. I felt more willing to participate in activities, looked forward to walks, and felt more confident saying yes when friends or family suggested doing something active. That confidence is powerful. Many adults don't lose independence overnight. Instead, they slowly lose confidence in their bodies. They begin avoiding activities because they're afraid of falling, getting tired, or getting hurt. Over time, those fears can quietly shrink a person's world. What surprised me most was how a simple daily habit started expanding mine again. Then day 90 arrived. At that point, I reflected on where I had started. I remembered struggling through those first squats and wondering whether this challenge would make any difference at all. That's when I realized that the biggest transformation wasn't physical, it was mental. I no longer saw aging the same way. I stopped viewing strength loss as something that simply happens to everyone. Instead, I began seeing strength as something that can be maintained, improved, and protected through consistent action. Not perfection, not extreme workouts. Just consistent action. Finally, day 100 arrived. I wish I could tell you that I looked 20 years younger. But I didn't. I wish I could tell you that every ache and pain had disappeared, but they didn't. What I can tell you, however, is something much more meaningful. I felt stronger, steadier, and more capable. I moved with greater confidence. Everyday tasks required less effort. And perhaps most importantly, I felt more in control of my health than I had in years. That's the real reward, not looking younger or chasing perfection, but preserving the ability to live life on your own terms. If you're over 50 and thinking about becoming more active, remember this. You don't have to start with a complicated fitness program. You don't need expensive equipment, and you don't need to be perfect. You simply need to begin. Even a few squats performed safely and consistently can become the start of a larger journey toward better strength, balance, and independence. Of course, if you have significant joint problems, recent injuries, or medical concerns, it's always wise to speak with your healthcare provider before beginning a new exercise routine. For many people, the biggest obstacle isn't age, it's waiting. Waiting for the perfect time. Waiting for more motivation. Waiting until things get worse. The truth is that the best time to start taking care of your strength is before you desperately need it. The habits you build today can help determine how confidently you move tomorrow. And if there's one lesson I learned from squatting every day for 100 days, it's this. Small actions performed consistently can create extraordinary changes over time. If you enjoyed this story and found it helpful, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who wants to stay strong, active, and independent after 50. You never know whose life might change because of one simple habit, and perhaps that habit starts today.